We're talking to Dan Wolken, USA Today columnist specializing in college football, college basketball. And I want to talk quickly about the college football playoff. And there's been talk about expanding it. And of course, Barry Alvarez of the Big Ten, Larry Scott of the Pac-12, they want to expand it for obvious reasons because those teams aren't good enough to get in right now. We could have, now that you've got LSU coming out of not necessarily nowhere, but LSU might be a candidate for the college football playoff. You might have a whole mess of SEC teams taking over. What do you think the prospects are of expanding it? And do you think that it's going to take the TV networks writing a check for that to happen, or could it just come from the conferences?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we've never quite figured out and no one's really said is, did the TV networks want to write a bigger check for this thing? Do they, because we've seen now with the 14 playoff what the audience is on ESPN, and it's been some years it's been better than others. Does ESPN are they real excited about going in and spending another $1 billion on this? No one's really answered that, but it's not as simple to go from 4 to 8 or 4 to 6 or whatever. It's just sort of snapping your fingers. There's a lot of logistical issues that will go into it, and it's a heavy lift to get all that right. Just one of the things to think about, you've got a playoff, and the first round, if it goes to 8, would certainly be on college campuses. So how do you figure out on a weekend in December how to get a football team and thousands of fans on short notice into a town like Clemson, South Carolina, which has, very little in terms of hotel rooms and, one road in, one road out. I mean, it's so all these things have to be done on short notice if you have a playoff. And
but I mean, when you look at what Jim Delaney did with the Big Ten and bringing in a Rutgers and having the conference tournament at the Garden, and that basketball scheduling is so ridiculous. I mean, you're talking about the fans, but let's talk about the athletes. The Big Ten basketball schedule is so ridiculous. To call those athletes student athletes is a farce. It just comes down to, is someone going to be there to write a check? And I think in the case of what you're talking about in the college football playoff, if there is a John Skipper type guy willing to write the check because he created the college football playoff, I think what you're talking about, and believe me, I'm with you, and I went to the University of Georgia, and I've been at Clemson and been in these situations, the logistical nightmare of it all. But I really think it just comes down to what you said at the very beginning. Is there an appetite of the network to do it? And I don't think there is right now.
Well, I'm not saying this stuff can't happen. It can, but it's a heavy lift. There's a lot of stuff you have to go through, and I don't think you just snap your fingers and make it happen overnight. I think it's a multi-year conversation to get to that point. If there is an appetite, a desire to go to 8, and again, the conference commissioners have been a little bit reticent to do that. The thing is, those people are changing. They're retiring. They're leaving those jobs. New blood's coming in. Those guys are going to be a little bit more open to change. But that, like you said, I do think the network part is key. Does ESPN or whoever want to pay more for 4 more games?